Now, this PPT is visible to you. Is it visible to everybody?
Yes, ma'am.
Points. These are all the points related to challenges to industrial development in the country. Industrial development is very important. We all know this. Industrial development leads to growth of the country. The gross domestic product, which is the sum total of all goods and manufactured within the domestic territory of the country, that GDP, it grows if there is industrial development in the country, right? So now we are discussing today's class. We are starting with challenges to industrial development. What are the challenges? What are the roadblocks to industrial development in the country? So all
Ma'am,
of you, yes, please.
have you provided large class PPT in?
By one, each challenge is very important, and think on each challenge. Okay, country. Now the first point, if you see gaps between the targets and the achievements, the first challenge to industrial development in the country is there are certain gaps between targets and achievements. Every time we make certain targets, we are not able to achieve it completely, right? There are 12 5-year plans in India. You know what are 5-year plans? From first to 12th 5-year plans we had in India. And these 5-year plans just started soon after independence. And these 5-year plans were aimed at industrial development in the country, for the overall development of the country, not only industrial development, but for overall development and growth of the country, right? The last 5-year plan was the 12th 5-year plan. 12th 5-year plan was spanning from 2012 till 2017. This was the last 5-year plan. 5-year plans were completely done away with. इसे खत्म कर दिया गया है अब. Now there are no more 5-year plans, and the new government has started with has completely removed or eliminated the system of 5-year plans, and it has now formed a new body which is called as Niti Ayog. And this body makes plans, policies. Please be on mute, everybody. If you are asking, then you can unmute yourself. This body, Niti Ayog, it makes plans, policies, etc. for overall development. We also discuss the concept behind Niti Ayog and all. We'll discuss today itself. So we had first to 12th 5-year plans, and it all started from 1956 onwards, soon after independence. And the last 5-year plan was the 12th 5-year plan, and this 12th 5-year plan lasted in 2017. 2012 से 17 के बीच में 12th 5-year plan था, एंड उसके बाद से ये 5-year plans का सिस्टम खत्म कर दिया गया है. अब नीति आयोग एक बॉडी है जो कि प्लान्स, policies it is making for the industrial development of the country, and not only industrial development but for the overall growth and development of the country. Now, as I said, the first point, there is a gap between target and achievement. हर 5-year plan में या हर किसी पॉलिसी में या हर किसी प्लान में एक टारगेट रखा गया कि we have to achieve this much, but we were unable to achieve it. This was one of the reason behind the lagging industrial development in the country, that जो भी target थे we were unable to achieve it. Okay, what is the gap? What do you mean by gap between target and achievement? Simply कि आपने आज सोचा कि नहीं, आज मैं पूरे दिन में 9 घंटे पढ़ाई करूंगा, लेकिन effectively आप 4 ही घंटा पढ़ पाए. That is the gap between target and achievement. Okay, same thing happened. For example, first 5-year plan, something was targeted, but the one which was achieved was, it was underachieved. Achieve नहीं कर पाए. Second point, development of a license permit Raj in the country. License permit Raj system means that for every company or every industry that you are starting with, you have to take a license from the government of India. right? That is called as license permit raj in the country. Before 1991 हर काम शुरू करने से पहले गवर्नमेंट से लाइसेंस लेना पड़ता था, right? 1991, which is considered as the watershed year. In the last class also, I
Oh
told you that
damn,
there
shit,
was
bro.
economic reforms in the country in the form of
Okay.
liberalization,
JPM की
privatization, and
बस आ गई,
globalization.
कितनी तगड़ी तगड़ी।
That the license permit raj system in the
सही
country
है।
was completely done away with.
ये
से
देख।
खत्म कर दिया गया। ठीक है, अब क्या सिचुएशन है कि वी कैन स्टार्ट एनी बिजनेस विदाउट टेकिंग एनी लाइसेंस फ्रॉम द गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया, बट येस, देर आर फ्यू there are few businesses which still require taking licenses. Okay, for example, defense, arms and ammunition. For this we have to take a license from the government of India. So this is when you have to take a license for each and every activity. This was coming as a obstacle in the way of industrial development in the country. Number 3, underutilization of capacity. हमारी मशीन की कैपेसिटी है 10,000 यूनिट्स पर डे बनाने की। हमारी सिटी कितनी है? 10,000 यूनिट्स पर डे, 8 घंटे के अंदर 10,000 यूनिट बनाती है। बट हम उसको यूज कितना करते हैं? हम सिर्फ 3,000 यूनिट बनाते हैं। कैपेसिटी कितनी है? 10,000 की, और हम यूज कितनी करते हैं? 3,000। इज इट ओवर यूटिलाइजेशन और अंडर यूटिलाइजेशन? यस प्लीज। Same thing happens with lack of industrial development in the country. जब सारी कंट्री में सारी यूनिट्स, बहुत ज़्यादा इंडस्ट्रीज ऐसी होंगी जहाँ वी आर नॉट एबल टू फुल्ली यूटिलाइज अवर कैपेसिटी, then there is no point. It is simply wastage. It is simply a challenge to industrial development of the country. अब ये क्यों अंडर यूटिलाइज होती है? ये आप बहुत सारे रीजंस हो सकते हैं। हो सकता है हमारे पास कैपिटल ना हो सकता है हमारे पास ऑर्डर्स ना हो, कि हम 3,000 यूनिट इसीलिए बनाते हैं क्योंकि हमारे पास ऑर्डर ही नहीं है, राइट? देयर कैन बी अ नंबर ऑफ फैक्टर्स बिहाइंड दिस। नेक्स्ट, inefficient public sector. Public sector is considered to be lazy. It is considered to be inefficient. We have a number of times that there is babu dom system in the country. Babus are there, they are hired, they don't want to work, right? They are lazy, they keep the files pending for months together. So this is the condition of inefficient public sector, and this is one reason behind the industrial development roadblock. Next is infrastructure constraints. Who will explain me this point, infrastructure constraints? So this also comes as a hindrance to industrial development in the country. Next is failure to attract foreign capital.
क्या चाहता है?
When you have foreign capital in the country through the foreign direct investment FDI, you increase your capital base. आपके पास थोड़ा सा पैसा था, आपने अट्रैक्ट करके किसी इंडस्ट्री में और फॉरेन कैपिटल अट्रैक्ट कर लिया, सो द कैपिटल इंक्रीजेस। एंड मेनी ऑफ यू माइट बी हैविंग फैमिली बिजनेसेस एंड यू कुड हैव सीन कि अगर कैपिटल नहीं होता है तो बिजनेस बहुत सफर करता है। कैपिटल इज द लाइफ लाइन ऑफ एनी बिजनेस। सेम हियर। So foreign, when you attract foreign capital, it gives you a base. आपके amount of capital बढ़ जाता है, and you can carry a better business. Next is growth of regional imbalance. Regional imbalance is that some regions are prospering and some regions are absolutely backward. Right? For example, places like Delhi, Kolkata, Mumbai, Chennai, they have become powerful magnets. People are migrating here. Why? Because there is industrial development, there is growth in these regions. But other regions, they are getting backward. They don't have other industries, right? They don't have employment, and that is why they are migrating to these regions. So there is a regional imbalance. Next is unemployment. Of course, there would be unemployment because it is linked to regional imbalance only. अगर किसी एक एरिया में इंडस्ट्री नहीं है, कंपनीज नहीं है, तो क्या करेंगे वहाँ के लोग? वहाँ के लोग जाहिर है कि यहाँ दिल्ली में या किसी और बड़े शहर में शिफ्ट करेंगे. दैट इज अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट इज वन रीजन. नेक्स्ट इज इंडस्ट्रियल सिकनेस. Many companies are becoming sick. Sick means that they are losing their profitability. They are loss making oriented units, right? And they can be again because of a number of reasons. It can be technology, or it may be inefficiency on the part of the companies, or it may be the government policies. So many companies and many industries are becoming sick also. This is again a reason. This is again leading to industrial development roadblock. And last point says financial constraints. The industry, the companies, they are unable to get the funds smoothly from the banks. Banks have lot of conditions, banks have lot of regulations as far as lending money. So lending money is not easy for companies, and when you are unable to borrow money, it becomes a constraint on the industrial development of the country, because many companies, many industries will not survive, because if the funds are not there, the company cannot survive for a very very long period of time. So these are some of the industrial development challenges, a very important part which I discussed today. Now let me check with what I am going to discuss. Yes. Now I am straight away moving to, just a second please. All of you will read this industrial policy, and this is the first industrial policy, which is called as Industrial Policy. Please read and give me one policy. As I said, that industrial policy in the country soon started after independence, and this is the first industrial policy resolution of 1948. So just after 1 year or so, the policy, this resolution was formed, right? So we have a series of policies and resolutions after independence. See, resolution after in 1948, just after independence. There are 5 points. Has everybody read the points? In Industrial Policy Resolution 1948 says that both public and private sector will coexist. They would work together for the industrial development of the country. Second point, active role of the state in the development of industries in view of the backwardness of the private sector. So 1948, very very less industries from the private sector. Only a few industries was there in the public sector only. Now what is the second point laying down? It's simply stating that there should be more active role of the state. What is state here? State क्या है? यूपी बिहार है?
country.
Whole country, the government of the country, right? So the government, the country should have more role in the development of industries. Number three, division of industries into four
ये
categories.
दोस्त किस लिए
Four
होते हैं तूने
categories
कहा
were
बंद
made.
कर दिया
One,
था
exclusive
तूने
monopoly of the state. ऐसी कंपनीज, ऐसी इंडस्ट्री जो सिर्फ
चेंज कर
गवर्नमेंट के
देना
हाथ में है.
ना
नंबर
से
टू,
टूटी तो
प्रोग्रेसिव
इस वजह
ओनरशिप
से
ऑफ द
फटी
स्टेट. ऐसी इंडस्ट्रीज जहां धीरे धीरे
कब
गवर्नमेंट
मैं ये सब चीजें डाटा कॉपी करके
पूरी
रखता
तरह
हूँ
से ओनरशिप ले लेगी उन सारी
तो
इंडस्ट्रीज की.
अगले दिन का याद रहता है
Number three, government controlled industries. Those industries where private
उनको
sector
नहीं
is
कोई भी
also
चीज
there,
की खाना
public
पीते
sector
आदमी को
is
खाना
also
बोलती
there, but the government is making regulations. Government is controlling their activities. And number four, of course, the private sector. So चार कैटेगरी में सारी इंडस्ट्रीज को डिवाइड कर दिया गया. पहला, जो पूरी तरह से गवर्नमेंट की थी, ओनरशिप जहां गवर्नमेंट की थी. दूसरा, उन इंडस्ट्रीज पे जहां धीरे धीरे गवर्नमेंट अपना ओनरशिप बढ़ा रही थी. ठीक है, दो हो गए. तीन, गवर्नमेंट कंट्रोल इंडस्ट्रीज, प्राइवेट भी हैं पब्लिक भी हैं, बट गवर्नमेंट कंट्रोल कर रही है उनकी एक्टिविटीज. और फोर्थ, प्राइवेट सेक्टर. Emphasis on cottage and small industries. Small industries pay. It was laid down that the government should focus on development of small industries. Cottage industries are small industries. Number next, harmonious labor management relationship. There should be a better role, better harmony, better relationship between between the owner and the labor.
गुड मॉर्निंग इंडिया
ओनर और लेबर में कॉन्फ्लिक्ट नहीं होनी चाहिए या कम होनी चाहिए. And the last,
सर
regulation and control of foreign capital
ऑब्वियसली यार
enterprises in national interest. What is that? There should be
मेरी
no
रूम नहीं है
foreign
देखा
capital. Why? Because it was just after
ऑब्वियसली
independence. We were scared कि अभी हमें बाहर से कुछ नहीं लेना है, ना पैसे लेने हैं, ना सामान लेना है. So we would just rely on ourselves because it was just after independence. So it is saying that regulation and control of foreign capital and enterprises. Right? There's no room for foreign companies, no room for foreign money. So this is industrial policy of resolution of 1948. Now come to this. After 1948, the next industrial policy was industrial policy resolution of 1956. Everybody please read a small para
To be developed
exclusively by
exclusively by
people. Please be on
is
mute.
the
Yeah. When you are speaking, you can unmute, otherwise you can mute yourself. सो पहली एक कैटेगरी क्या है जो सिर्फ स्टेट लेगी यानी गवर्नमेंट अपने हाथ में रखेगी. शेड्यूल बी इंडस्ट्री क्या होंगी जो धीरे धीरे जो गवर्नमेंट अपनी ओनरशिप बढ़ा रही होगी. और तीसरी क्या होगी ऑल द रिमेनिंग इंडस्ट्रीज. राइट. Then it may be from the private sector. Every other industry will be a part of the schedule 3, schedule C. So तीन कैटेगरीज में इंडस्ट्रीज को डिवाइड कर दिया गया. 56 के बाद पहला 48 फिर 56 उसके बाद तीन और रेजोल्यूशन आए जिनको हम स्टेटमेंट कहते हैं. रेजोल्यूशन इज अ बेटर एंड अ बिगर वर्ड. स्टेटमेंट क्या है छोटे छोटे स्टेटमेंट्स आए. पहला इंडस्ट्रियल डेवलपमेंट स्टेटमेंट ऑफ 1973. Then industrial development statement 1977 which was focusing on development of the small scale sector. And the third one was the industrial development statement of 1980 which calls for concession to small scale industries. Concession किस चीज में जैसे लोन दिया तो लोन में उन्हें कम रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट के साथ स्मॉल स्केल इंडस्ट्री को देना है फंड्स. So this is how many we have done. 5. First is industrial policy resolution 1948 followed by industrial policy resolution of 1956. Then three statements 73, 77 and 80. Now the next one after 1980, the next important and a very important part as far as your syllabus is concerned is the new industrial policy of 1991. 1980 के बाद जो नेक्स्ट पॉलिसी आई वो है न्यू इंडस्ट्रियल पॉलिसी. एंड यू ऑल नो कि 1991 एक फेमस ईयर भी है वाटरशेड ईयर भी है. क्यों है? Is it because of the new industrial policy only? Why 1991 is so important? Is it just because of the new industrial policy NIP? Year where we moved to a modern era.
Ma'am, government change.
We had a new industrial policy of 1991, but at the same time, we were carrying out overall development of the country in the form of LPG reforms. What is LPG? Liberalization,
Ma'am, privatization and globalization.
globalization. Liberalization, more powers to the private sector. More powers. Done. Do away with the licensing raj system. लाइसेंस की जरूरत नहीं होनी चाहिए किसी भी काम करने से पहले. Do away with license system. Right? Bring in foreign capital. There should be no regulation on the foreign capital. There should be more. Just a second. There is some free environment. Right? So this is liberalization. Privatization is more teeth to the private sector, more share in the to the private sector. And globalization is when you are able to import and export easily between one among the other countries, when you are able to invest in other countries and other countries are able to invest in our country, that is globalization. So we started with the LPG reforms in 1991 under Dr. Manmohan Singh, and he was the brain behind the LPG reforms, right? And within the LPG reforms, we'll talk about the new industrial policy of 1991. Now, look at the points, everybody, to look at the points. These are very important points related to new industrial policy of 1991. In the new industrial policy of 1991, licensing was done away with. Who will explain this point? I just explained a little required. but licenses would only be required for very, very specific sectors.
Ma'am,
For
there is only 18 in.
licenses for requirement for various industries was reduced considerably. The number next. The number next is foreign investment and technology. Foreign investment, which is very important, I told you, in the form of foreign direct investment. That is when countries or various companies from abroad, they start up their manufacturing units in India, they start opening their stores in India. This is foreign investment in the country. Not only they bring capital, but they also bring in technology. For example, the collaboration between Maruti and Suzuki. Maruti has bigger markets. मारुति ने सुजुकी को क्या दिया? बिगर मार्केट्स, अपनी मार्केट दी. एंड सुजुकी ने मारुति को क्या दिया? टेक्नोलॉजी. द पावरफुल इंजन्स बिहाइंड मारुति 800 was all the brain of Suzuki, right? So this is a collaboration, so which brings in foreign investment as well as technology, right? So FDI is very important. FDI means foreign direct investment. Whenever any company wants to start up its plant, its unit, that is called as FDI. Okay, so the new industrial policy laid lot of emphasis on foreign investment and technology. All ways should be found out to increase the foreign investment and technology in the country. Number 3, reduce reservation for public sector. Who will explain this? All of you must speak something. पोस्ट ग्रेजुएट से पब्लिक सेक्टर हर जगह होगी. ब्रेड बनाना है तो भी पब्लिक सेक्टर होगी, कंपनी होगी. जैसे मॉडर्न बेकरी थी, वो गवर्नमेंट ओन थी, वो ब्रेड बनाती थी. ठीक है. और अगर एटॉमिक एनर्जी की बात करते हैं तो वहां भी पब्लिक सेक्टर थी और आज भी है, राइट? बट इन द न्यू इंडस्ट्रियल पॉलिसी सेज दैट देयर शुड बी रिड्यूस्ड रिजर्वेशन फॉर पब्लिक सेक्टर. अब सिर्फ ऐसा नहीं है कि ब्रेड बनाएगी तो पब्लिक सेक्टर मॉडर्न बेकरी बनाएगी, प्राइवेट एंटिटीज भी बना सकती हैं. These sectors should not be completely reserved for the public sector. Public sector reservation is only in atomic energy, mining and railways till date. Okay, so reservation for public sector should be stopped or should be little reduced. Next is sick companies. Sick companies. What are sick companies?
Ma'am, who are not earning profits.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
लॉस मेकिंग कंपनीज शुड नॉट बी लेफ्ट टू देमसेल्व्स कि वो ठीक है चल रही है तो चलने दो. नो, देयर शुड बी अ प्रॉपर समथिंग, देयर शुड बी अ प्रॉपर प्रोसीजर followed to reduce the number of sick companies. If some company is a loss making company, then efforts should be made to remove it. For example, a board was created, right? Board for financial reconstruction. What does the board do? This board simply talks about the strategies to check out why companies are becoming sick or ways to reduce the sickness of the companies, right? So they should just not be left to themselves. Coming to the next point, disinvestment. Who will explain this? Private sector is disinvestment. So the new industrial policy says that government का जहां जहां रोल ज्यादा हो गया है या unnecessary रोल जहां ज्यादा हो गया है, उन entities को, उन companies को government sell कर देगी. That is called as disinvestment. जैसे मैंने आपको एग्जांपल दिया अभी मॉडर्न बेकरी का. गवर्नमेंट की ओन थी मॉडर्न बेकरी, बट गवर्नमेंट ने अपनी ओनरशिप उससे हटा ली, उसको बेच दिया, राइट? सो दैट इज कॉल्ड एज disinvestment. More professionalism in PSPs. We just read that public sector, these companies, they were becoming lethargic in their approach. They were inefficient. They were unable to carry the operations in the right manner. Now, in the next point in the new industrial policy states that more professionalism. There must be proper rules and conduct in which the people have to, follow those rules and conduct. More professionalism should be there on their part, right? Next is restriction of MRTP Act to be done away with. Now, what is this MRTP Act? MRTP stands with Monopolies and Restrictive Trade Practices Act. These are acts. This was formed in 1969. This act was there in 1969, and this act has certain features which were detrimental, which were against, detrimental is against, which were against the industrial development of the country. For example, if any company grows to 100 crores, then it should, before it proceeds further, it has to take the government permission. 100 करोड़ की कंपनी हो गई, अब उसको आगे नहीं कुछ कर सकती है, पहले गवर्नमेंट से परमिशन लेगी कि हम आगे काम करें या नहीं करें, राइट? तो इस तरह के कुछ फैक्टर्स थे जो दैट वाज अगेंस्ट द इंडस्ट्रियल डेवलपमेंट ऑफ द कंट्री. सो व्हाट डज द 1991 इंडस्ट्रियल पॉलिसी स्टेट्स कि एमआरटीपी एक्ट को स्क्रैप करो, बिल्कुल खत्म कर दो. दिस पॉलिसी इज अगेंस्ट द इंडस्ट्रियल डेवलप, दिस एक्ट इज अगेंस्ट द इंडस्ट्रियल डेवलपमेंट ऑफ द कंट्री. Increasing support to small scale industries. It was realized in 1991 that small scale industries are the backbone of the country, and there should be more support to them. There should be more impetus on the small scale industries in the country. So this is all which we can discuss in the new industrial policy of 1991. So 1991 के broad framework में क्या है? सबसे पहले remove licensing. Carefully listen, remove licensing or abolish licensing except few industries. Foreign investment and technology to be increased. Ways efforts should be found out to attract foreign investment and technology. Reduce reservation of public sector. Everywhere public sector should not be there. There should be more room to the private sector. Sick companies, if they are loss making companies, they should be sent to the board for finding out strategies to improve their profitability or to close them at all. Next is disinvestment. Wherever the government is in excess, wherever the government has a more role, the government can sell its ownership to the private sector. More professionalism on the part of public sector enterprises, because people earlier in the public sector enterprises, we see that the people are lethargic, they are inefficient, they don't want to work. So more professionalism should be there in their conduct. Restriction of the MRTP Act. The MRTP Act was called as a draconian act. It was against, it was an obstacle in the path of industrial development, and therefore it has to be scrapped. Next is increasing support to the small scale industries. Small scale industries should be increased, and there should be more focus, more impetus, more support to the small scale industries in the country. Small scale industries has many benefits. One is they give employment to a large chunk of people. जब बहुत सारी कंपनीज होती हैं छोटी छोटी, तो एम्प्लॉयमेंट बहुत होता है, रीजनल डेवलपमेंट होता है. जहाँ पे भी वो कंपनी खुलेगी, मान ली एक छोटे गांव में या छोटे शहर में खुलती है, तो वहाँ के लोगों को वो एम्प्लॉय करेगी, राइट? दे आर एक्टिंग एज गेम चेंजर्स. गेम चेंजर्स इन्हें बोलते हैं. लोकल एरिया को वो डेवलप कर देती है, वहाँ के एरिया, वहीं से लोग खरीदेंगे, वहीं से लोग एम्प्लॉयमेंट वहीं से मिलेगी. सो दे आर एक्टिंग एज गेम चेंजर्स. So that is why the reason in 1991 it was said that small scale industries should be supported more. Okay, so this is what we are going to discuss, and we have discussed is the new industrial policy of 1991. तो आप थोड़ा सा पहले का भी चॉक आउट करेंगे यहाँ से. Before the 1991 policies, there were 5 more resolutions and statements. पहला कब आया? 48 में, दूसरा 56, और फिर 3 स्टेटमेंट 73, 77 और 80 में आए. उसके बाद आपको ये लिखना है, यहाँ से स्टार्ट करना है कि देन वी हैड द मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट न्यू इंडस्ट्रियल पॉलिसी ऑफ 1991 which increase the level of industrial development in the country. 1991 इसीलिए watershed year है, because it from here started the opening of the economy. The economy was opened. It was no longer a closed economy कि जो हम बनाते हैं हम वही खा लेते हैं. वो closed economy है. Open economy क्या है कि जो हम बनाते हैं हम बाहर भी सेल करते हैं और बाहर का सामान खुद में लेते भी हैं. That is more focus on exports, imports, investments, right? So we move towards from a closed economy to a open economy. Okay, so that is why now then after when you write new industrial policy, do you have to explain all the features of the new industrial policy of 1991. ये सारे features आपको एक एक पैराग्राफ में या 3-3 लाइनों में समझाना है, right? And this is how you will answer this question of new industrial policy of 1990. In case you have doubts, please keep on asking in between. ठीक है? Accumulated losses equal to or exceeding its net worth, and also suffered cash losses in that financial year. ठीक है? So 5 साल की कंपनी है, being a company registered for net not less than, it is net, it is not net, not.
Can we take it as Air India before take by Ratan Tata, sir?
हाँ, yeah, it is a sick industry, sick company. So any financial 5 years से ज़्यादा की वो बड़ी लाइफ होनी चाहिए उस कंपनी की. And at the end of any financial year, if you see, the accumulated losses are more than or equal to the net worth. What is net worth? Net worth is simply the assets minus the liabilities of any company. Assets, you know, assets जो हमारा अपना सामान है, assets are things that we own. जो हमारा अपना है, that is owned सामान, that is assets. Liability क्या होती है? Yes, what is a liability? Bound to pay back. That is a liability. So assets minus the liabilities gives us the net worth of any company. So if you have losses more than or equal to your net worth, that means it is a sign that your company is a sick enterprise, right? And it has also suffered cash losses in that financial year, then it is called as an industrial sick company. Okay. What may be the causes of internal what may be the
भाई
causes
सौ सौ
behind
200
industrial
रुपये देने पड़ेंगे
sickness?
भाई।
Internal causes and
भाई
external causes.
200 रुपया
देखिए, ये इंटरनल कॉजेज हैं और ये
देना पड़ेगा,
एक्सटर्नल
लकड़ी
कॉजेज
मंगानी
हैं,
है
जिसकी
जलाने के
वजह
लिए,
से हम
ठंड में
बता
काम
रहे हैं कि
मरना थोड़ी
इंडस्ट्रियल
ना है।
सिकनेस क्यों होती है.
सर से बात कर लो।
तो
कौन
पहला
से सर?
इंटरनल कॉज आप लोग पहले पढ़ लीजिए, देन आई विल एक्सप्लेन. के पीछे नंबर 1, रॉन्ग लोकेशन. लोकेशन इज नॉट एट ऑल स्ट्रैटेजिक. लोकेशन ऐसी आपकी कंपनी की है जहां से बहुत लॉस होता है उसको मार्केट तक सामान लाने में या रॉ मटेरियल लेने में बहुत पैसे खर्च होते हैं. सो वन रीजन बिहाइंड द इंडस्ट्रियल सिक कंपनी इज रॉन्ग लोकेशन ऑफ द एंटरप्राइज. नंबर 2, defective plant and machinery and wrong technology. This is self explanatory. The plant and machinery is obsolete, wrong technology hai, and that is why you are unprofitable. Number 3, incompetent entrepreneurship. The people who are handling the company, they are inefficient set of people. They are inefficient for not only for making products, but also in making decisions. Decision making is more important than doing something. Okay. Next is finance, unable to get the funds. That is why you are becoming sick. Management, the people who are managing the company, they are not competent enough. These are internal causes related to industrial sickness of the country. Now, please read the external causes. Causes we have discussed. Look at the external causes quickly. Industry specific. Maybe it's not only with a particular company. The all the companies within the industry are sick, are having unprofitability. They are registering losses because they may not be getting the orders, or they are not at all competitive, or there may be price related issues, or maybe might be problems related to procuring raw material, right? So the entire industry is suffering. It's not something which is only unique to a particular company. Rather, all the companies which are part of the industry are suffering. Next is government related. It might happen that the government policies are not such to boost a particular industry, and that is the reason the particular industry is suffering or incurring losses. And number 3, financial related, that these companies, they are not able to get funds from the bank, and that is causing them to have losses. So these are something which is not within the hands of the company. This is something outside the company, and that is why we have written external causes. One, industry specific. सिर्फ आपको नुकसान नहीं हो रहा, पूरी इंडस्ट्री को नुकसान हो रहा है. Two, government related factors.
नोट करा रहे हैं वहाँ
Three,
पे
financial related factors, not able to get the funds. Okay, so this is external, and the one which we read before was something internal to the company. आपने रॉन्ग मशीनरी यूज कर रहे हैं, रॉन्ग जगह पर आपने अपनी कंपनी को बना रखा है, या आपके ओनर को कुछ नहीं आता, या आपके पास फंड्स हैं लेकिन आपको ठीक से फंड्स यूज नहीं करना आता. Management is also pathetic. This is something internal to the company. Okay, so we have discussed the causes behind the industrial sickness, and that is divided into two parts: internal causes and external causes. Okay, now coming to the next one, measures. उसको कैसे आप improve करें, industrial sickness को कैसे खत्म करें. पहला है कि merge sick units with healthy units. जो loss making units हैं उसको healthy units के साथ आपने merge कर दिया. ठीक है. सब्सिडीज एंड कंसेशन, सब्सिडी दिए, कंसेशन दीजिए, कंसेशन दिए इंटरेस्ट पे, लोन्स दीजिए, सो दैट द कंपनी रिकवर्स. And then the last point says that government policies should be more friendly towards the companies. They should not be this should not happen that the government policy is also leading to losses for many companies. Okay, now straight away moving to the next part, and which I have left before, that is role of government in business. What is the government role in industrial development? I'll change this, I'll call it as role of government in industrial development, क्योंकि आपके syllabus में ये term लिखा है, role of government in industrial development. Government's role is multifaceted. If the government is not at all friendly, if the government is not able to provide concessions to a particular industry, the industry will not survive the onslaught. Okay, so government must have good relations with the industry. Government's role is categorized into three parts. Look at this. The first part, regulatory role. We'll discuss one by one. Regulatory role of the government, promotional role of the government, planning role of the government. Sorry, and there is one more, entrepreneurial role of the government. So four roles of the government we are going to discuss. Government की क्या role होते हैं? चार role होते हैं industrial development में. So the first role is regulatory role. Everybody to read, please. Role of the government is the regulatory role. Government को regulate करना है companies को, industries को. Regulate करना है. Regulate means that it has to look after. It has to create regulations, rules, norms कि किस तरह से कोई इंडस्ट्री कैसे फंक्शन करेगी. The role of the government can be direct or indirect. The direct is one which regulates the industry, trade, services and other economic sectors to do or not to do certain things. आपके पास rules हैं कि क्या करना है आपको और क्या नहीं करना है. The do's and the don'ts. That is the direct role of the government. Indirect roles are through the policies. For example, regulating the monetary policy of the country. It means that either the money supply in the country will increase or money supply in the country will decrease. When the money supply will decrease or increase, naturally it's going to affect the various industries. अगर money supply ज़्यादा है, तो industries are going to make benefit out of it. They will have their investments. But if the money supply in the country is less, then the businesses will try to postpone their investment. अब हम अभी नहीं करेंगे investment, हम बाद में करेंगे.
किसका
Why? Because the money supply
बना
is
हुआ है?
less. When the money supply is less, the rate of interest in the country is high. Okay? तो अब ज़्यादा rate of interest पे कोई काम नहीं करता. क्या करेगी business? Postpone कर देगी. So this is an indirect effect, indirect control of the government. पहला कि आपने एक रूल बुक दे दिया कि सारी इंडस्ट्रीज को ऐसे ऐसे करना है, हर इंडस्ट्री के लिए चॉक आउट कर दिया कि आपको इसी उसमें वर्क करना है, इसी ब्रॉड गाइडलाइंस में. सेकंड, through the monetary policy, through the fiscal policy, you are laying down rules and regulations to control the industry. Okay, are you able to get it, students?
हेलो
Relation of rules, regulations, policies, guidelines which all the companies, which all the industries must
हाँ
follow.
जो लास्ट वाले दो थे वो लोग।
इनडायरेक्ट रोल, कि आपने क्या कहा, मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी को चेंज किया, फिस्कल
हाँ
पॉलिसी
साढ़े
को
चार सौ
चेंज
वाले।
किया, ट्रेड पॉलिसी को चेंज किया, एंड फॉर दैट एवरी
हाँ
अदर कंपनी
वही
इज
पूछ रहा
बीइंग
था, वो वाले
अफेक्टेड
बनवा देता
बिकॉज
हूँ,
ऑफ
ठीक है
these
सर।
decisions. So the government acts as a
ठीक
regulator
है,
in two
वही मैं
ways,
इसका कह रहा था कि
directly
जो
and
बैंडिंग का था ना,
indirectly.
बैंड साढ़े
Next role
लॉक
of the
कह रहे थे।
government, promotional
हमने
role. Everybody to
37
read,
लिखा,
please.
36.5 आ रहा था, वो उसी पे लगा दिया मैंने, ठीक है।
Take time. Regulatory role, अब देख रहे हैं promotional role. Government must promote the business operations.
ठीक है सर।
It must take steps to promote companies.
हाँ समझ
How
गया,
to
वो
promote the
बाहर बाहर से
companies?
12 है, इनसाइड इनसाइड का 10 है।
Generation, distribution
ठीक है
of
सर,
electricity.
ठीक है, मैं उसको करवा दूंगा, बैंडिंग वाइंडिंग मैं क्रॉप करवा दूंगा पूरा, ठीक है सर।
Excuse me. Generation and distribution of electricity. Government is acting as a generator, and it generates electricity and distributes electricity to the various industries. So how it is promoting business? By giving electricity. Number one, building transport facilities, that is building infrastructure like roads, railways, seaports, airport. जब गवर्नमेंट ये रोड, रेलवे, सीपोर्ट, एयरपोर्ट बनाती है, डज इट हेल्प द इंडस्ट्री? यस और नो? A number of things to improve the funds in a particular industries. Like for example, it makes regulations to, so that banks can start lending to the
बॉक्स साइड पे
industries.
कौन 5 सेवन।
Educational and training institutions like IITs. Why this is important? Educational and training institutions like IITs, because when you groom people, they are capable of working in industries. Well managed, educated manpower, technical manpower will help in increasing the industrial development of the country. So that is the reason various educational and training institutions are opened. The government promotes these institutions. Healthcare facilities. Healthcare facilities, giving free access to various health initiatives or hospitals, helps in increasing the industrial development of the country. Subsidies to small and micro units. I said small industries, micro industries, they are too small. They need support from the government. So that is why in the promotional role, the government also supports the small and micro units with the help of subsidies. Right? So this is the promotional role of the government in industrial development of the country. Now, some more. I was just leaving. Now, some more allocation. Please read and then I will explain. Many resources are scarce, जो कम हैं, उनको कैसे बांटा जाए? एलोकेशन कैसे बांटा जाए? क्या एक ही इंडस्ट्री को सब देना है, या सबको बांट के देना है, कुछ खुद भी रखना है? सो हाउ टू डिस्ट्रीब्यूट द scarce resources is the role of the government. Next is provision of lands at concessional rates. Lands for starting industrial units should be given by the government at less rates, concessional rates. Water supply should be smooth. The industries should not be affected by the water supply. Marketing facilities, government should make markets so that so that the industries are able to sell their products. आज स्मॉल स्केल इंडस्ट्रीज के साथ सबसे बड़ी प्रॉब्लम फंड्स तो है ही, लेकिन एक और सबसे बड़ी प्रॉब्लम है कि जो वो बनाते हैं वो बिकता नहीं है जल्दी. That is, they are not able to get the markets. Now you might be reading about कि बहुत सारी ऐसी लेडीज हैं जो निटेड आइटम्स, ऊन से बिना सामान बनाती हैं घर पे, लेकिन उनके पास उसको सेल करने का कोई तरीका नहीं होता. तो दैट इज व्हाई इट इज अनप्रॉफिटेबल. Now, for small scale industries, not only funds, one of the most important things is finding the markets where they can sell their products. बहुत सारे प्रोडक्ट ऐसे, कैंडल मेकिंग है, या डिटर्जेंट मेकिंग है, या फिर आप स्मॉल ये स्मॉल जार्स हैं, पेपर कप्स हैं, पेपर ग्लासेस हैं, जो बनता है घर घर में लेकिन उसे सेल नहीं कर पाते. So that is why the government's one of the government's role is providing markets for the products. Storage facility. There are many people, there are many industries, there are many companies, poor farmers, they are not able to store their products. Poor farmers, उनकी जो भी उन्होंने जो हार्वेस्ट किया क्रॉप्स, उसको उसको एक ही दिन में बिक नहीं सकता, उसको स्टोर करना पड़ता है. स्टोरेज के लिए उनके पास वेयर हाउस नहीं होते. बहुत बड़ा फार्मर होगा तो उसके पास वेयर हाउस होगा, लेकिन छोटे फार्मर्स के पास स्टोर करने का नहीं सामान होता, तो वो क्या हो जाता है, खराब हो जाता है सामान, सड़ जाता है सामान. So government should also have common storage houses where these people can store their items. Insurance of business risk. The government should provide insurance to the people, to the industries,
विजय सर
to
जो है ना,
small businessmen, to
एबीपी वाले,
locals.
उनका कोई दो पीस
Concessional
कह रहा है आसाम
finance
के
to
लिए गाड़ी
weak
लगती
or
है, दो
sick
पीस
business
छूट रहा है उसको
units.
अर्जेंट में करवा दो,
Weak or sick business
ऐसे करवा
units
दो
must get
कटवा
loans
दो।
at concessional rates of interest. And the last is export
एक
promotion.
लेना हो कोई।
All attempts should be made at improving exports. So, what is the biggest benefit of having exports? Anybody? For imports, हमें import तो हम रुपए में नहीं खरीद सकते. हमें उसके लिए फॉरेन एक्सचेंज चाहिए, हार्ड करेंसी चाहिए, डॉलर चाहिए, यूरो चाहिए, रियाल चाहिए. So that is why we need foreign exchange reserves. And these foreign exchange reserves will only come from exports. There may be investments, there may be other means also for getting the foreign exchange reserves, for increasing the foreign exchange reserves. But one of the biggest contributor is exports. When when you do exports, you bring in valuable foreign exchange reserves, which is important for carrying out imports for other investments. Okay. Now the next. तीसरा रोल क्या है? I told you that 12 5-year plans was formed since independence. So government is a planner also. It is able to plan, it is able to make plans, and then those plans are achieved.
सर सतेंद्र की सैलरी नहीं आई
The
है।
planning commission was started in
सतेंद्र की सैलरी
1950. As resources available in any country are limited and market forces fail to attain efficient allocation of resources, government through economic planning ensures optimum utilization of limited resources. See, resources are scarce. Resources का क्या मतलब है? Funds, land, right? Yeah, raw material. These are scarce resources and they have to be properly utilized. That is why we are using the word optimum utilization of limited resources. Resources should be optimally utilized. When you talk about funds, जब आपके पेरेंट्स आपको पैसे देते हैं तो व्हाट डू दे से? इसको ठीक से इस्तेमाल करना. ऐसा नहीं कि कहीं भी आप कुछ भी ले रहे हैं, मूवी भी देख रहे हैं, रेस्टोरेंट में भी आप खा रहे हैं, ये नहीं करना है आपको. यू हैव टू यूज इट ऑप्टिमली. जो सबसे ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट आपको नीड है उसको पहले आप फुलफिल करेंगे, right? Because funds is a scarce resource, right? Similarly, for any company also, for any industry also, not only funds, the raw material, the funds, right? The let's say the subsidies, everything is limited in nature, so they have to be optimally utilized. Labor, you are paying for the labor. ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि 8 घंटे का आप लेबर रख रहे हैं तो 6 घंटा वो चाय पी रहा है और 2 घंटा वो काम कर रहा है. It has to be optimally utilized. They have to be used in the best possible manner, right? So what is the government doing in the planning role? The government is formulating plans. The government is taking all steps that industries must achieve the plans, right? Now the last role, entrepreneurial role. Everybody read. Participating in business activities. जैसे हम कहते हैं कि private and public sector should coexist. तो entrepreneurial role में क्या है? Government is also an entrepreneur. Government का काम सिर्फ planning, regulating ही नहीं है. Government भी industry चला रही है. Government भी companies चलाती है. That is the entrepreneurial role of the government, right? It's public ownership. Look at this. It is written here. Government participation in business activities through public ownership of industrial and commercial enterprises. Government is also acting as an owner. In India, the Industrial Policy Resolution of 1948 and 56, which we discussed just now, clearly provided a greater role for the public sector, and public sector virtually expanded into almost all vital and key sectors of the economy. हमने क्या पढ़ा 1948 और 56 के रेजोल्यूशन में कि government should have a progressive role in all the industries. It should increase its ownership, right? So there lies the entrepreneurial role of the government. When the government also works in the same way as a private sector, right? The entrepreneurial role of the government did not confine to setting up new business units alone. सिर्फ ओनली न्यू बिजनेस यूनिट्स ओपन करने के का नाम नहीं होता एंटरप्रेन्योरियल रोल. What else is there? Nationalization of certain industries. Please be on mute, students. Nationalization of certain industries. And business institutions like coal, copper,
कहाँ रह गए
insurance,
भाई?
banking, and taking over of private sector sick
क्यों इधर
industrial
उधर गए?
units further extended the
मैं आ रहा हूँ फिर।
entrepreneurial role of the
हैं?
government. Now anybody who can tell me what is the meaning of
उधर ले।
nationalization?
अभी तेरे को इधर, ठीक?
Having ownership from the private sector, that is nationalization. और इसका opposite क्या होता है? Nationalization का opposite
मैम
investment और privatization.
एक
Same
को
thing.
एक वैसे
ठीक
नीचे
है.
वाले को होल्ड
जब
करो ना,
प्राइवेट के
इधर वाले
पास
को
ज्यादा
होल्ड करो,
शेयर
इधर
होने
वाले
लगता है, गवर्नमेंट अपना
को
अपना
दोनों डाइवर्स
ओनरशिप
सेलेक्ट करो, ऐसे
बेचकर
क्लिक कर सकते हो
प्राइवेट सेक्टर
क्योंकि
को
अभी वो
देती है.
चाय टाइम
दैट इज
लगेगा, फिर बाद में
डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट और
लगेगी। ठीक है,
प्राइवेटाइजेशन.
कोई
ऑपोजिट
नहीं,
क्या
मैं
है?
भी।
नेशनलाइजेशन. जब गवर्नमेंट प्राइवेट सेक्टर की ओनरशिप लेकर अपनी ओनरशिप बढ़ाती है, दैट इज नेशनलाइजेशन. So nationalization means more entrepreneurial role of the government. Government is taking up like coal, copper, insurance, banking. It has started taking since 1948, and this is nationalization, right? So from the private sector, it is it is taking ownership from the private sector. That is called as nationalization. For example, 1969 there was nationalization of banks. What does it mean? Those entities which were managed by the private sector was now taken over by the government, right? So this is the entrepreneurial role of the government. We discussed today four roles of the government in industrial development of the country. If you get a question on role of government in industrial development of the country, you are going to discuss four roles of the government in increasing the industrial development of the country. What are those four roles? One is the regulatory role. इस regulatory role के भी दो parts आप लिखेंगे, direct and indirect. Direct role जहाँ government forms the policies, the guidelines for various industries. Indirect role of the government, where the government through monetary policy, fiscal policy, trade policy regulates a particular industry. This is regulatory role of the government. The second role of the government is promotional role of the government in industrial development, by through opening of educational institutions like IITs, through financing facilities, by giving 24 into 7 electricity, water supply, healthcare facility, and subsidies to the small scale units. This is promotional role of the government. Third role of the government pertains to planning role. It has since inception, since 1947, we started with the 5-year plans. Which is the last 5-year plan I told you today morning only? What is the first last 5-year plan?
मैम 2012 to 2017.
Very good. 2012 to 17, the 12th 5-year plan was the last one. Now we don't have 5-year plans. Instead, we have small 1-year, 3-year plans, and which is governed not by the Planning Commission. See, the Planning Commission was formulating these 5-year plans. Now the Planning Commission does not exist. And instead of that, we have the Niti Aayog, right? So in the next class, when we meet tomorrow morning, we are going to discuss the objectives behind the formulation or behind the establishment of Niti Aayog. Because the government SIF, it doesn't regulate the industries. It is also acting as an entrepreneur. It is also acting as an owner. There are many public sector enterprises which are owned and managed by the government only. So four roles of the government in the industrial development of the country. Okay, so stopping here, and tomorrow